Few punishments in history carried the chilling weight of flaying, the deliberate and calculated stripping away of human dignity in its most literal form. It was never just a punishment. It was a display of dominance, a warning etched into memory rather than flesh alone. For rulers and conquerors, it was a method of control, a symbol of power that ensured fear long outlived the act itself, and those who employed it left behind a legacy that still haunts history today. Ancient Assyrians, masters of skinning, the Assyrians were not just conquerors, they were architects of terror. No empire wielded fear as effectively as the Neo-Assyrians, whose campaigns were marked not just by military prowess but by a chilling level of psychological warfare. To resist them was to invite not only death, but a fate far worse, a slow, public, and excruciating demonstration of suffering, meant to break the spirit of entire civilizations. The brutal conquest of Lachish in 701 BCE, led by King Sennacherib, stands as one of history's most infamous examples. The detailed reliefs from his palace at Nineveh depict Assyrian soldiers standing over their captives, methodically peeling away the skin of the defeated. The Assyrians mastered this tactic long before Sennacherib under King Ashurbanipal. The conquest of Elam in 647 BCE reached new levels of destruction. The Elamite capital of Susa was left in ruins, its leaders subjected to unspeakable torment. Inscriptions from Nineveh's library boast of Ashurbanipal's vengeance, describing in chilling detail how rebel leaders were flayed and their remains displayed as grim trophies of conquest. Even before Ashurbanipal, the legacy of cruelty had been firmly established. Ashurnasirpal 2883-859 BCE, one of the earliest and most ruthless Assyrian kings, recorded his own horrific deeds in cuneiform inscription found in the ruins of Kalhu Nimrod. His chilling words remain among the most infamous ever etched into history. I flayed as many nobles as had rebelled against me and draped their skins over the walls. The Assyrians understood that true power was not just in conquest, but in the terror it instilled. Their empire thrived on fear, and the echoes of their brutality still linger in the historical record, a testament to the unrelenting force they wielded over the ancient world. The Persian method, how flaying was used as a warning, while the Assyrians used flaying as a tool of terror and warfare. The Achaemenid Persians refined it into a grim symbol of law and order. For them, this punishment was not just an instrument of fear, but a demonstration of absolute justice, one that left a lasting impression quite literally on those who ruled after. Perhaps the most infamous case was the execution of Sisamons, a corrupt judge whose fate was recorded by Herodotus in histories. King Cambyses II, son of Cyrus the Great, did not simply sentence him to death for accepting bribes. He ensured that Sisamons would serve as a warning to all who followed. The judge's skin was flayed and stretched over the very seat he had once presided upon, a chilling reminder that justice in Persia was not to be corrupted. The next man to sit on that throne would do so with the knowledge of what had come before him, his every ruling weighed against the consequences of dishonesty. Justice in the Persian Empire was swift and severe, particularly when it came to rebellion. Darius I, upon securing his throne in 521 BCE, faced a formidable uprising in Babylon led by the pretender Nebuchadnezzar III. The punishment for defying Persian rule was ruthless. Executions, mutilations, and public displays of dominance were standard practice. The Behistun inscription, an imposing rock relief carved into a cliffside in modern-day Iran, commemorates this brutal suppression. Unlike the Assyrians, who sought to break their enemies through sheer terror, the Persians wielded flaying with purpose, turning skin into a legal decree, a physical reminder that disloyalty and corruption would be punished in ways that no one would dare forget. Mongol wrath, flaying enemies as a symbol of ultimate domination. The Mongol conquests were defined by their sheer efficiency, but they were also steeped in psychological warfare where others used brutality. To inspire fear, the Mongols turned it into an art of submission. ensuring that resistance was seen as futile long before their armies even arrived. One of the most chilling examples came during the Mongol invasion of the Khwarezmian Empire 1220 to 1221 CE, a campaign that reshaped the political landscape of Central Asia. When Genghis Khan unleashed his forces upon Samarkand and Urgench, the cities fell, not just to Mongol steel, but to a carefully orchestrated display of overwhelming power. Surrender was an option. Defiance, however, was met with a fate designed to ripple through history. Some Persian sources suggest that captured Khwarezmian officials, particularly those who had defied Mongol authority, met an unspeakable end. Reports indicate that flayed skins were deliberately sent to neighboring cities. A stark and undeniable message: resist and you will not just perish but serve as a warning to those who remain. Medieval Europe's horrifying justice. Medieval Europe was no stranger to brutal punishments, but flaying carried a deeper, more symbolic weight. Unlike battlefield executions or noble beheadings, this was a slow, methodical form of justice, one designed for spectacle. Public executions were meant to reinforce the law, and when a crime was deemed especially heinous, the punishment had to reflect its severity. Flaying, though rare, became a terrifying reality for those guilty of treason, heresy, or crimes against the crown. One of the most infamous cases involved Pierre Basile, the crossbowman who fatally wounded King Richard I of England, Richard the Lionheart, in 1199. Though Richard had pardoned him before dying, the king's enraged men saw fit to disregard his mercy. Basile was reportedly flayed alive in a gruesome display of vengeance, a reminder that striking down a ruler carried consequences beyond the battlefield. Flaying was not only reserved for royal assassins in parts of medieval France and the Holy Roman Empire. Counterfeiters who undermined economic stability were subjected to this punishment. Some historical records suggest that their fate was publicly displayed in marketplaces, ensuring that economic deception would not go unnoticed. Linki in China, a form of extreme punishment. While many civilizations used flaying as a punishment, few methods matched the calculated cruelty of Linki, or death by 1,000 cuts. Unlike the swift executions of war, this was a drawn-out form of justice, one that emphasized prolonged consequences over immediate death. Practiced in Imperial China, Linki was reserved for the worst crimes, particularly treason, where execution alone was not enough. The punishment had to strip the individual of dignity and erase them from memory. One of the most infamous victims was Yuan Chonghuan, 1630 CE, Ming Dynasty general who had defended China against the Manchu invaders. Accused of treason through political conspiracy, he was sentenced to Linki in Beijing. His execution was a spectacle, allegedly drawing crowds who believed they were witnessing the fall of a traitor. Some accounts even claim that pieces of his flesh were distributed to the public, though such claims remain debated. Linki persisted into the Qing dynasty, with one of the last recorded cases being Fu Chu-li, 1905 CE, executed for murdering his master. Unlike previous eras, this event was photographed by Georges Dumas, sparking international outrage. The growing influence of Western legal ideas led to the punishment's official abolition that same year, unlike the Mongols who used flaying as a political tool. Or medieval Europe, where it was a rare spectacle, China's Linki was designed to strip a person of their humanity, physically and symbolically, ensuring that even in death they were punished beyond the grave. Few punishments in history evoke such a visceral reaction as flaying. It was never just a means of execution. It was a symbol of control, a calculated display of power designed to outlive the condemned, whether used to break enemies, enforce justice, or terrify the masses. Its impact stretched far beyond the act itself, leaving behind scars, not only on flesh but on the collective memory of civilizations. These moments etched into history remind us of humanity's darkest extremes, the lengths to which rulers would go to assert dominance and the suffering endured by those who defied them. History is more than a record of past events. It is a reflection of human nature itself, a mirror to our deepest fears and greatest struggles. And as we look back on the cruelty that once defined power, we are left with a haunting realization: civilizations rise and fall, but the echoes of their choices never truly fade. The psychological impact of flaying far outlasted the physical torture. The fear it instilled in those who witnessed it was immeasurable. Those who saw the victims left alive after their skin had been peeled away were forced to carry the reminder of that terror in their minds for years. It was not just a punishment for the individual, it was a tool to maintain control over an entire population by leaving them with the haunting memory of the fate that could await anyone who defied authority, whether in ancient Rome or medieval Europe. Flaying was used as a tool to ensure loyalty and instill fear. Flaying was more than just a way to kill, it was a psychological weapon aimed at breaking the will of anyone who dared to oppose it. The suffering inflicted on those who were flayed became a symbol of absolute power. It reminded the population that the rulers held the ability to destroy not only a person's body but their very soul. Through this brutal punishment, rulers could create a chilling example that no one dared to defy their will or survive with any honor or dignity. In many ways, flaying transcended the boundaries of punishment and became a statement of authority and control. A ruler who used this form of execution was demonstrating that their reign was built on fear and that there would be no mercy for those who failed to submit. Even in death, flaying served as a reminder that the rulers had the ultimate control over life and death, and no one was truly safe from their judgment. The lasting effect of these brutal acts is still seen in the way they are remembered in history. The fear these punishments instilled in their victims reverberated throughout time, leaving behind a legacy that shaped the way rulers would govern in the future. It was a legacy of terror and submission that proved to be an effective way to maintain control over people throughout history. The scars left behind by the acts of flaying may have faded from the flesh, but the psychological effects remained for generations to come. Flaying may have become a thing of the past, but the memory of it still lingers in the minds of those who understand its true purpose in history. It remains one of the most brutal and unforgiving forms of punishment ever devised by human civilization. In the end, the legacy of flaying is a reminder of the extremes humanity has gone to in the name of power and control, and the lengths that people will go to instill fear in those they seek to dominate.